शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. Please repeat after me. Om Sahanavavatu.
Om Sahanavavatu.
Sahanau Bhunaktu.
Sahanau Bhunaktu.
Sahaviryam Karavavahai.
Sarveryam Karavavahe.
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai.
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Asato ma Sadgamaya.
Asato ma Satgaya.
Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya.
Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya.
Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya.
Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya.
Okay, so we have some newcomers in the class right today. So if I just have to, so Amit, then we have Himali,
And
then we have what is there? JB. Okay, so we will just quickly recap, and then we will go from there. So let me just share my screen. So we are basically looking at this elementary text called as Tattva Bodha, which is Shankaracharya's what we call as Prakarana Grantha. So a Prakarana Grantha is basically that text which will help us understand the detailed Vedanta texts in the Brahma Sutras and Drigdrishya Vivekas, Viveka Chudamani, and all those things in detail. So we generally start with these textbooks which are called as Prakarana Granthas, and then go into the Prasthana Trayas, which is Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Brahma Sutras and all that. So that's the Vedantic way of learning. So before we deep dive into the Vedanta, what the concepts that are mentioned there. So Shankaracharya is here. We talked about the Guru Parampara, of course, and then Shankaracharya is talking about the qualifications that is required for a sadhaka to enter into this journey. So generally we have this notion that you need to be born in a particular caste or religion or a sect. So there is nothing like that for you to understand, to actually contemplate upon God and to realize God. So the only qualifications that are needed are these fourfold qualifications as per the Sanatana Dharma tradition, and that is what is outlined here by Shankaracharya. So we talked about something called as Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka, which is like the concept of Brahman and Maya. So, and we try to understand this through a simple example. So, as per we have all studied science, and then we know that for anything to exist, there should be a cause behind it. Without a cause, nothing can exist, right? So, we are trying to see what's the cause for this entire universe, right? And then through contemplation, through our great rishis have found that through meditation and contemplation, they have in fact ask this question, right? Who am I? That is each and every individual themselves, and what is this world? What is the nature of the world? And the answers that they have God is what they have given to us in the form of these great scriptures, in the form of Vedas, Upanishads, and all that, right? So the basis of all that is the concept of this Brahman and Maya. So Brahman is that one single source of power that is powering this entire universe, as well as the individuality, what we call as the life principle within us, right? And but we don't know that, because there is something called as Maya also, which is again an offshoot of Brahman. And we saw this through an example of the gold and the ornaments. So when we are making let's say bangles with gold, we normally see the bangles only, not the gold behind it. The same gold can be converted into ring, can be converted into a chain, right? So all this can is coming from that gold bars only. But we generally don't see that gold bars, but then we only see that form and shape. If you look at that, there is nothing in that form and shape except for the gold, right? So if you look at the bangle isn't the gold in the form of a bangle is what is a bangle. The name, utility, and the form, that is what has changed. So similarly, here we say that Brahman, or that supreme source of power, it when it comes to a different name, a form, a utility, that is what we are seeing around us, and that is what is called as Maya. So Brahman and Maya. So this is just a just for the conceptual understanding as of now, but we will see in detail a little bit later when we are progressing through these texts on how this can be actualized in our life, right? So we will see that. Then we saw something called as viraga or vairagya. So viraga or vairagya is something renunciation, if you have to translate into English, but then it's not like leaving everything and going to forest, as we have understood in the earlier classes. So what viraga means is that whatever you are doing in this life, right, try to make it as a path to achieve the higher goal. What is a higher goal? To know this Brahman is the higher ideal. So, and just not like Brahman is not something sitting somewhere, it is the life principle within you. And to know your real nature is what the path to that is Vairagya or Viraga. So, nobody is asking any one of us as grihasthasramis or the householders to renounce and go to the forest, because as per the Sanatana Dharma traditions, we have four different ashramas, as we call it, right? And then we have all heard about it, right? The brahmacharya asrama, the grihastha asrama, vanaprastha asrama, and the sannyas asrama. And then correspondingly, we have something called as purusharthas, or the ambitions. I'm just going a little bit fast because we have covered all this. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. These are the four purusharthas, right? So the four purusharthas here represent how we can fulfill the desires in each of the stages and move to the next stage and to achieve the higher ideal. So that's what is viraga. Then Shatka Sampati. We are currently seeing this Shatka Sampati. There are about 6 different uh, principles here: Shama, Dama, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhanam. And then the last qualification is Mumukshutvam. So this is what is required for a sadhaka or somebody who is entering this journey. And we saw the concept of Shama and Dama in the previous classes, and then we are now going to see Uparama, Titiksha, and others. So if you have to look at the Shama, the Shama is the first one out of the Shatka Sampatti. It is controlling the mind. And as per Vedanta, we saw that there are 4 stages of mind. That is Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. So buddhi is we all know the analytical layer. The chitta is the memory chamber of us, wherein we are storing all the memories. And then ahankara is the ego, I. So that is what is the base for all the other 3 layers actually, right? And when it comes to mana, there are 3 different functions of mana. So it's like mana or mind, as we generally understand, is it's just flow of thoughts. even if it's you call it as mana, buddhi, chitta, whatever it is just flow of thoughts. And when it gets categorized into particular chambers, like you are thinking something analytically, and then you are trying to solve a problem, then you are in the buddhi layer of the mind. When you are thinking about some childhood memory, something that happened in the past, right? So you are in the chitta layer, right? Then if you are just daydreaming, and then you are getting distracted, right? That's the part of the mana. And then this mana has got some vasanas, what we call as ashtaraga: kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya, chitta, ahankara. And then this is called as the ragas, right? So the ragas are something that makes us get into do whatever we are doing. Like those are just as we know it, these are like jealousy, hatred, all these. That is why it is called as mala. Mala means dirt, right? So we saw again this in the last classes. So vikshepa is you are getting distracted when you are sitting in the class, right? You might be thinking about something else, so that is the distraction. And the ajnana avarana is something like it's the same as that of maya, that you are not seeing the principle behind something, but you are seeing only that. Like in the case of the bangle and the gold, we saw that we are not seeing the gold, but we are only seeing the bangle. So there is a avarana, or what in Vedantic language it is called as a wheel. So that is what is ajnana avarana. And then we saw about the dhamma. This is shama, and this is then we saw dhamma. Dhamma means indriya nigraha, or chakshuradi bahyendriya nigraha. So we have our senses, our five senses. So how to control the senses, and this is what is beautifully mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. The symbolism in Bhagavad Gita is about that, right? So we saw that this picture that we talk about as the Gita Upadesha, or the battlefield. So this is what it means. So Atmanam Radhinam Vidhi Shariram Radamevatu Buddhim tu Sarathim Vidhi Manapragrahamevasha Indriyani Hayanahu Vishayamsteshu Gocharan Atmendriya Manoyuktam Bhoktetyahur Manishina. So our body is the chariot, the God, Krishna, is the charioteer or the intellect. We, Arjuna, here, we are the Arjunas, or the passenger in this body, right? The mind is the reins, and the horses are the senses which will run away in different directions if it is not properly controlled. So if we have, the whole concept is that the way to live life is to control our senses through the reins of the mind. And who should control this? It should be controlled by the intellect, who is Krishna. And our intellect always says this, right? That's not the correct way of doing it. You should not be doing this. So our mind will be running haywire. So we might want a lot of things, and we might want to even acquire that not in the proper means, but then by any means, actually, by not looking at the right or wrong, right? So that's where the intellect comes, Krishna comes and try to win the battle for us, right? So Krishna is one. If you look at, there is a story in Mahabharata wherein after the this all this war is over, right? And after Krishna has departed this world, then Arjuna, one day Arjuna goes to Dwaraka, and then he returns, and then he says, while coming back, what happens is that he meets some guys in the jungle. So those are like the primitive tribal people who are not very much trained in any of the archery or anything, but then they easily defeat Arjuna. And then Arjuna comes back to Yudhishthira and say that I got defeated. I had the same Gandiva in my hand, the same chariot, the same horses, but I missed one thing, and that is Krishna. Krishna was not there with me, and now I understood how I won the war, and now I understood why I got defeated. Those who are not even trained in archery, right, defeated me today, and I am called as Lokaiga Dhanurdharan, meaning the world's most prolific, the most efficient, Dhanurdhari. or the archerer, and I got defeated because now I understand my strength was Krishna, right? So if we place Krishna in the intellect or the intellect in the correct position, which is to rule, uh, to help us guide in our life, then we will be successful, otherwise we will not be. So this is what we saw in the last class till here. So now we will go to the next section, right? So before we go, any questions from the last class?
Uh, Last one mentioned
Sorry.
five in the Dhamma. You said the Indriyas were of two types, right? One was the Jnana Indriyas, and the other one was the Karma Indriyas.
Karmendriya, yeah. Yeah, so Jnanendriya and Karmendriyas, there are like in total there are 10, right? So the five senses, um, and then the five senses we know, the sight, hear, then taste, smell, touch, and then there are five. Those are called as Jnanendriyas. That is the receptors through which we know this entire world and we respond to it, right? So these are the ones which are called as Jnanendriyas, and then there are five karmendriyas. Karmendriyas are like, Vak, Pada, Pani, Payu, Upastam. So these are the five karmendriyas. The five karmendriyas, Vak is the speech that we say. That is, that's a karma. That's why it is called as karmendriyas. Vak, Pada means your feet. So, and again, you do some karma with your feet. Pani, your hand. Payu and Upastam, organs of excretion and reproduction. So these are the five karmendriyas. But generally, when we are talking about indriyas, we talk about panchendriyas, only five indriyas, because mainly the other five are being driven by the five senses that we normally talk about. These sight, smell, hear, taste, touch, right? So then we respond to that through these karmendriyas. So karmendriyas as such, right, they don't do anything on their own. For example, my hand doesn't just go and pick something without my consent, without the coordination of these other five jnanendriyas. So that's why whenever we talk about indriyas, we generally talk about five jnanendriyas only. And that's why it is called as panchendriyas.
So when we are talking about control over mind and control over the Indriyas, if we have control over the Jnana Indriyas, you will by default have control over the other Karma Indriyas. Is what the
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. Yes, that's right. Because, if you look at the last time we saw that example, right? If you are like diabetic and then suddenly, you are taking that decision that I'll not eat any sweets, and you like laddu very much. And then if you have, laddus placed somewhere near you, and then what your hand will not go there and touch, right? What will go? Your first, you will understand that, the laddu is there through your sight, then your mouth will start watering, right? So all these indriyas will force the hand to go and touch it. So as such, if you look at, the hand will not go. Before that, these are the things that knows, these receptors receive it, and then stimulates your hand to go and touch it. That's how it is, because anything hand has doesn't have the ability to go and touch it without being stimulated by these jnanendriyas, because the jnanendriyas are the ones that captures this, right? Otherwise the hand as such will not know that it is there.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So let's move forward then. Now we are going to see Uparama, a very important point here. Uparama ka swadharmanushthanam eva. So Uparama, what is Uparama? Doing one's own dharma is what is called as Uparama. Uh, Dharma is a widely kind of explained and debated point in Sanatana Dharma. Right? So, and Sanatana Dharma itself has got Dharma. So, what is Dharma? So, Dharma, in one of the earlier classes, when we talked about the Purusharthas, we talked about Dharma. So, that which is the inherent nature of a thing or one's own self, that is called as dharma. So we saw that dharayati iti dharma. So that which is the inherent nature. For example, a fire, right? Fire has the inherent nature of the heat and light. So we can't think about a fire that is cold and which is dark. If it's dark and if it's cold, then it's not fire, right? So the inherent nature that defines that particular object or a person is its dharma at a very simple level. We are just going to see the elaborate definition of dharma in a minute, but then this should be the basic understanding of dharma, that is, the inherent nature of one's own self or a property that defines that particular object or a person or anything that you talk about. That is its dharma. Dharayati iti dharma. Now, Shankaracharya, in Vivek Chudamani, in actually not Vivek Chudamani, in Bhagavad Gita Bhashyam, the elaborate, when you say Bhashyam, the commentary that he has written for Bhagavad Gita, he gives a very good um, explanation of what is dharma. So he says, Jagata sthiti karanam praninam sakshat abhyudaya nishrayasa hetu ya sadharma. So what it means is Jagata sthiti karanam, that by which the entire universe is prevailing, right? And praninam sakshat abhyudaya nishrayasa hetu, and that which enlivens all the living beings and also becomes the power for the insentient ones in this world. That is what is dharma. Meaning, he's talking about two things here. One is the base for this entire universe. That is the first level. And then on top of that, whatever is the life principle in each one of those, even the plants in us, in anything. And even if you look at the insentient objects, like, the ones that are non-moving without life, that which is giving a form and shape to it, that is what is called as dharma, is what he is defining in the definition of dharma that he has given. And it's not coming from him. It is how that is being, dharma is being described in all the scriptures in Upanishads. So by hearing this, are you able to connect this to something?
Brahman,
Sorry?
the Parabrahma, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, in Vedantic tradition or in Dharma, what is Dharma is that Brahman, that single source of power, right? That is what is Dharma. Now, but that is from an overall level, from the universal level. But when it comes to an individual level, how should we understand dharma? Because we say that we should go in a dharmic way, right? We should live in a dharmic way. That's the way that we talk about dharma. So what is dharma when it comes to each one of us? So that's how we should understand. So see, and this is a very important point. So dharma at an overall level is this, that we just saw, that the Parabrahman is dharma. So why we have been given certain set of rules to follow, or why we have been told to do some things. And then again, when I say that we have been given certain set of rules as per our scriptures, there are a lot of things that scriptures has not given, but we have been exploited. That's a different point, right? In the name of dharma, people are saying that, okay, this should be done, that should be done. People are trying to define. So as I told in the last class, our only checkpoint should be whether it is told in the scriptures or not. So coming back to this, so through dharma, what are we trying to do? By observing whatever is told in the scriptures or in daily life, we are trying to tune ourselves to know that reality. So that is what is dharma. So it's like, you are tuning to a radio station. You have a radio You have an FM, right? What you do, you tune to 93.5 or whatever it is, right? So what does it mean? So you are tuning so that you are able to receive, right, that the radio that is at your end is able to receive that particular station, correct? So that tuning is what is happening through dharma, right? And that is why we should, and that's the end goal, right? Once you tune yourself to that higher power, right, that is what, that is how you will be able to realize that higher self and know that I am not just the body, but then I am that principle which is enlivening everything. So our dharmic way of life is just that. So what are the principles in that? The first principle of dharma, and I'm just telling the principles one by one because we are going to see that in detail later. The first principle of dharma is to do whatever you are doing with dedication, and that is what the karma yoga is all about. So if you look at this is what is being given in all our scriptures. And interestingly, if you know this, Veda Vyasa, he has given us the jewel of Bhagavad Gita, right? In Bhagavad Gita, if you look at the first sloka, it starts like this: Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveda yuyutsavaha mamaka pandava shaiva kimakurvata sanchaya. The first line or the first word in Bhagavad Gita is dharma, right? And the last line in Bhagavad Gita, the sloka number 700, right? It says Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama, right? And it ends with Mama. So if you just combine this, well, if somebody is asking, like, what is the message of Bhagavad Gita? It just says Mama Dharma, my Dharma. That is what the entire text is about, right? Bhagavad Gita is about our dharma, each one of us, how we should follow, what we should follow, right? And the battlefield is a representation of what? Of our own life, as we saw in that symbolism of the chariot and the charioteer and all that, right? And why there are, like, why we see that there are a lot of Kauravas there, hundreds in number, and only 5 Pandavas, right? The bad qualities or the vasanas as we see it are higher in number. And if you look at, we should be able to understand by the meaning of each of these names itself. Duryodhana, Dushasana, right? What is the meaning of Shasan? Prashasan, right? You know the meaning, right? And how the Prashasan is done? Du. Whatever is bad is by the name Du, right? And whatever is good is Su, Sudarshan. Dushasan, right? So Duryodhan, meaning whoever is trying to abuse the archery and the ammunitions and the power, that is Duryodhan, Dushasan, right? So the names like this. So, and if you look at each of the characters in that in the Kaurava side has got this negative connotation to it. And if you look at the Pandavas, it's only 5 in number, right? And Pandava is the definition of Pandava is like Pandita Evam Pandava, right? The who has got Panda. Panda means the Pandita is like whoever is eligible to gain this knowledge of the Supreme Self and can righteously live. And that's why if you look at each of these Pandavas has got great qualities in them. Dharmaputra. You can see the name itself, right? He is the one, he is an embodiment of Dharma. He is the son of Dharma. Arjuna. Arjuna means who has got Rijutva in him. Rijutva means whoever is able to comprehend in a spark just like that, right? Of that higher self. And that's why Arjuna gets this Vishwarupa Darshana. Right? So each of the Pandavas and those people will be lesser in number, not higher. Right? So now coming back to the dharma, the first principle is to understand what your dharma is and to do it in a dedicated manner. So when it comes to our daily life, if you are doing let's say an office job, you are supposed to do it with 100% dedication, right? And if you are, let's say, what becomes dharma and what becomes adharma? You are currently sitting in this class listening to it, right? And if you are just sitting and then thinking about, okay, after the class, what should I watch in Netflix? That is adharma, right? Why? Because you are physically here, but you are 100% not here. You don't have dedication at that point of time, right? So a dedication is the basis of dharma. So anything that, because see, if you look at all of our lives, right, we have chosen something, or if you believe in destiny or fate, right, whichever way that you want to look at it, you are being placed in a certain position, in a certain place, either by your own choice or by something called as destiny, whichever way that you want to believe. And you are supposed to do certain things, right? And so doing it with dedication is the first level principle. And we have seen some people, and this is again for our understanding. If you go and sit in the office and start doing puja, we might think that it's a good thing. It is not. Because in office, you are supposed to do office work. You can do your office work as puja. That's how you should be doing it. So anything that you are doing should be a puja, not a physical japa or puja, right? So in that way, you can make anything that you are doing, because you are anyways placed in a certain position, or in a certain circumstances, right? So you are supposed to do your work. If you are a householder, if you are a father, you are supposed to teach your child, or play with them. So whatever you are doing, if you are doing with dedication, right, and with a thought of this higher power, that automatically becomes puja. You don't have to separately do a puja, right? So there is this story of Narada. You might have heard about this. So one day Narada went to Krishna, or Bhagavan Vishnu, in Vaikunta, and then he was like saying that, okay, Narada, right? He always says Narayana, 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 and then roams around. So then there was a debate between him and Vishnu, and then Narada said, I think I am doing like lakhs and crores of Narayana Japa in a day, so I might be the most uh, ardent devotee of yours. So then Bhagavan Vishnu says, that might not be the case. There is someone else who is more dear to me. So then Narada is like very much surprised. How is that possible? Because I am like doing this japa, uh, lakhs and lakhs of japa in a day. And who is that? So then Vishnu says that, come with me. So he takes Narada, to a farmer. And then the farmer, what he does is, uh, Vishnu asks Narada to observe him. So he goes early morning, he goes to his farm, and then he just says, before he starts the work, he just says Narayana, and then starts the work. And then afternoon again, once he stops the work, he says Narayana, then takes a little bit nap, then he again goes to the field, and then again says Narayana, and then comes back. Before sleeping at night, he says Narayana. Only 3 times Narayana, that's it. And Narada was like, completely astonished. He only says 3 times, Narayana 3 times, and I am here saying like lakhs and lakhs of times. So how is it even possible? So Vishnu says, okay, do one thing. I'm going to give you a task, right? And do that task. So he gives a bowl of oil to Narada, which is like full, and then it's in the brim. And then he says, Vishnu says that, you should actually go and roam there was a hill, roam around the hill without spilling even a drop of this oil, right? And then come back to me. So you should do that. So then it takes him some time, and then he does that, and he goes around the hill, and then he comes back with great difficulty. He's not even spilling a drop of oil. And then he comes back and says, yes, I have done it. So then Vishnu asks him, okay, now when you are doing that round, of the circumference of the hill, how many times did you think of me? Or how many times did you do the japa? So Narada says, no, I was fully concentrating on not spilling the oil. That's exactly the point. So, when you were doing a certain task, you were very much focused on only on that, right? Whereas he, while fully focusing on his farming, he was also doing it as a samarpana to me. It's in your attitude, in your mind, in your dedication, right? So that's what makes him a better devotee. But again, having said that, this is just a story, and we should not be under any notion that Narada is not a bhakta. Narada is a great devotee. He has given us the Narada Bhakti Sutra, which is the the most authoritative book on bhakti, right? But then this is just a story to just to show even a person like Narada, right? Who is such a great devotee, he has to do whatever he is doing with dedication. So that's the first principle. And the second one is that whatever we are doing, it should not do any harm to the others. That's the second principle of dharma. And that's how you actually see whether it is dharma or adharma. Because our mind is something that will trick us very soon. So it will show as if we are doing some dharma, but actually it might not be the case. It might fall into the bucket of adharma, because our mind always pulls us for desires and say that, okay, this is my dharma. It tries to put a clock of dharma on top of our desire, and it will say that this is my dharma. And we should be very much careful about that, because it might be a selfish desire. End of the day, it might cause harm to others, but then we might say, no, it is my dharma. No. So that is one checkpoint that we will always have to keep in mind. If it is causing harm to others, it might not be our dharma, right? It might be a selfish desire. It is a very stringent path, actually, in the sense that you might not be able to differentiate easily between that. That's where your intellect plays, right? The Krishna comes for your help. That's how it is, right? Then the third part, again, to support the second point, is on the values, and that's why we have a value system in place. That's why our scripture says satyam vada, right? As an example, right? Speak the truth, and then certain values are given, and that's why we have been told uh, to teach our children, or as children we have been taught about certain values that we should follow in life, right? So value system will support for the dedication as well as for not harming others. So in a sense, this is what the dharma is all about, right? So because we will do this invariably, that everyone is doing the same, like we saw this once, right? When in Dhritarashtra, Vyasa comes during Mahabharata. Before the war, Vyasa comes to see Dhritarashtra and says that this is not dharma, you should stop the war. They are also equally, they have the right for the land, right? Give something to Pandavas, right? So he's like, no. And then Vyasa says, this is not dharma. So what Dhritarashtra says? Yada bhavan veti tadasmi veta, right? Bhava bhavo me vidido yadartho swarte hi sammuhyadi tata loka mamcha bhi lokatmakameva vidhim. The world, I know what is dharma, I know what is adharma, but the world goes, the world is selfish. Everyone is selfish. So what is the point in me just being not selfish? I am only going by how the world is going. This is how each one of us says. And that's the reason for the Mahabharata. If there was one person who could have stopped the war, it is Dhritarashtra. Easily he could have stopped it, right? But then he's not stopping, because he is saying that, and this is the same excuse that we say ourselves every time. The world is all selfish. Why should I be unselfish? If I become unselfish, then I will get beaten, right? So that's the point here, right? So if you are going through dharma and being unselfish for the sake of dharma, that's how you will reach God. So that is what swadharma is. So each one of us should try and contemplate what is our dharma. And there is no watertight definition of, your dharma might be different from my dharma, in the sense that the values, the dedication, everything remains the same. But then we should all think of our own circumstances and define what is the best for us and keep these three principles in mind. So that is what is dharma. And in the interest of time, I am moving to the next one, that is titiksha. So I'll just chant this and then we will see what titiksha is. Titiksha ka shitoshna sugha dukkadi sahishnutvam. So that is the next one. To uparama, the next one is titiksha. So shitoshna sugha dukkadi sahishnutvam, meaning taking both the extremes in the same manner. That is sugham, sukha, dukkha, which is happiness and sorrow. Sheetam, Ushnam, which is like, heat and cold. So this might sound like a bit strange because, how can we take both in a similar fashion, right? And there is a notion also that, all the sannyasins or, those who are going in this path, they should suffer. They should not show their happiness. They should not cry, right? People have these notions that, a sannyasin will not cry, a sannyasin will not show their happiness. So actually, that's not the case here, right? So the case is that I'll tell you an example of titiksha first to begin with, a story. Swami Vivekananda, right? So he has got his brother monks, right? The disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. So they were all like, there are a lot of disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Specifically 12 of them, who has given, whom Sri Ramakrishna himself has given direct diksha, the sannyasa diksha. So one of the brother swamis of Swami Vivekananda, he attained samadhi. So on that day, Vivekananda was like, he cried quite a lot in front of everyone. And then the other Swamis were also sad and all that. And then people were actually surprised to see a person like Swami Vivekananda, who's like such a strong person, or, who is supposed to be beyond all this. How is he crying? And then the next day, he was like playing around and then chatting and taking the classes was normal, absolutely like nothing has happened. So then a younger monk went to him and asked him, Swami, I don't understand what is happening, because yesterday you were like so sad, and then today you are like your normal self. So then Vivekananda said, your understanding about titiksha is not complete. So what does it mean? So it means that it is human nature to get happiness, sorrow, anger, whatever it is, you will get that. But, and this is a very good example that Swami Chinmayananda gives. He says that, keep it in your pocket and use it whenever you want to. Don't take it inside. Right? So when there is anger, when there is sorrow, when there is happiness, right? What we normally do, we keep it inside and we get pressurized with it, and then at some point of time it gets burst, right? And then it comes out in a different form, which we were not supposed to be intending to do something bad or something, but it overpowers us. Titiksha basically is like, just keep it whenever you have to show it, express it, take it out. Don't take it to the mind. And when you're expressing it, make sure that you are not hurting someone. Right? And that's what is called as, this again relates to the point. Again, whatever we are saying here is a step-by-step process, right? That we saw the shama, dama. So if you have that mind control, if you have the sense control, right? And when it is coming to the uparama and titiksha, so by this level, you might have already attained that mind control through which you will not be hurting others, but it will still arise in your mind. Angry, sorrow, happiness, because it is all coming from some circumstances outside. You can't help it. If you feel like crying, cry, but don't take it too much to the heart, right? And leave it, because sometimes expressing that is the best way to let it go. Right. So that is what is the first level of titiksha. And then the sukha and dukkha. And again, uh, coming to a story there. So there was this one sannyasi who was there in one of the borders of a kingdom. So he used to give some talks and all, and then he used to meditate and then try to realize God, and then he was like a great sannyasin who gives all these satsangs and all that, and then uh, he became famous very soon. So this came to the ears of the Raja there, the king there, and then the king sent his minister, and just he said that go and see whether he's a real monk or he's just giving some talks, or he's just like any other this godman who's like a con guy. So the minister goes, he hears, and then comes back and says that no, he's really he knows, he has that jnana and he is a real sannyasin. So then again the king sends the minister back saying that invite him to the palace. He goes and then invites the sannyasin to the palace. Sannyasin says that no, I am happy here. I don't want to come to your palace. What will I do there? I'm not planning to come. So then the minister goes back and tells the king. The king himself comes and requests, saying that you should come, and if you come, then my palace will be actually sanctified, and then you should come and bless us all in the palace and all that. So after so much of persuasion, the sannyasi says that okay, I'll come. But I also have a demand from you, but I'm not going to tell you what it is now. I'll tell it later. So the sannyasi goes there in the palace, and then the king tells everyone that the soldiers and the ministers and everyone that he is a great sannyasin. So he will have his own kind of habits and all. So you should not disturb it, and you should see what is needed. So once the sannyasi goes in the palace, so he started behaving like a normal man, in the sense that he is eating all the whatever the delicacies are there, and then he is sleeping in the velvet bed and all that. So and he is indulging in all the plays, games, and then whatever it is. So he is like a normal human being, and then the king gets suspicious. He says like this is not what I have heard. So maybe he wanted actually to get into the palace and enjoy these pleasures. So that's why he came in the palace, right? So after a month's time, then the king asks the sannyasin, Swami, actually, I have heard that sannyasin has got very less desires and everything. And then, but you seem to be enjoying everything. And this is not what I have heard of a real sadhu. So then this sadhu says that now I have my demand for you. So I have come and I have been here in your palace for about a month's time, as per what you have told me. Now you come with me, right? Come with me for about and stay with me for about 4 days, right? But there is a condition. So you're not coming to me with me as a king. You should not take anything. Just come, and then and you will not be having any horses or anything. You will be walking along with me. So he said, okay, so let's go. So then the guys goes back to that border, and the sadhu used to sit beside a banyan tree. So they go there, and by that time it's like it's a long journey, long walk. Both of them are tired, and then actually once they reach there, the sannyasin takes some fruits, some leaves from the banyan tree and the some other trees and all, and then he gives one handful of the fruits and these leaves to the king, and then he takes one himself, and then he starts eating with the same taste as like by the way that he was enjoying the delicacies in the palace. He was like, so with the same interest, with the same way that he had eaten in the palace, he starts eating. The first bite of that leaf, king was not able to take. He was like, oh, it is too bitter, and then he spits it out, right? He was like, I can't even eat. How can I eat this thing? So the sadhu says that okay, you can eat whatever you can eat, and then he eats some fruits, and then then he says that okay, let's sleep now. And the sadhu, as soon as he sleeps in the root of the banyan tree, which is like very hard, and then as soon as he just lies down, he goes to sleep like he used to be in the velvet. cushion. A king was not able to sleep. One night passed without king not being able to sleep, without not able to eat anything, and he was like in a terrible condition. And the next day morning, he says, "I can't leave this." Right? I have been in war, I have been in tough situations, but then this is too terrible. I'll not be able to live in these circumstances. So then the sadhu says, "This is what it is." Right? When I go and sleep in your velvet bed or eat delicacies, I eat it with the same taste as that of this, right? In the sense, I sleep in the trunk or in the root of the banyan tree with the same notion that I am sleeping there or here. It doesn't make a difference to me because my concentration is fully on something else. My concentration, whatever I am doing in this world, is to reach that higher state. And I am always in that state. And in Vedanta, it is mentioned in a very good statement called as Visrandi Masadhya Turiya Talpe, meaning that yogi who has reached that state, he's always in that peaceful state, whatever, whether he is in a he is sitting in a throne or he is sitting in on top of the this spikes, right? It doesn't make a difference to him because he is always resting peacefully in that state. So that is what makes him eligible to take both the extremes as equal. So that is what it means. So the Visranti Masadhya Turiya Talpe. So the Sugha and Dukkha. And then so Sugha, Dukkha in the same state, Shita, Ushna. So it is like we have all gone through this actually, right? If we have to, let's say, go for an exam, and we might have been through this situation. So we might be going in some second class. We might have traveled in second class in India, right? Without a reservation. We have to go urgently somewhere, right? We will not think too much about the hardships. Of course, there will be hardships, but then we will be thinking about something because we have to reach there on time for something, be it an exam, be it something, or it might be some emergency. We might be thinking about emergency. We might have our one of our beloved ones, or some of our relatives might be one of our relatives might be in a serious condition. We might have to go, so we will not go for the reservation or anything. We'll just go in the general compartment and we will sit there. Our mind will not be in the hardships that we are facing there. Our mind will be where what happened to him or what happened to her, right? So how can we make sure that they are recouping and coming back to health? So this is what will be our thought process. So similarly, when we are in this world, we will not be thinking about too much of this when we are aiming for that higher ideal. So that's what it means from a titiksha perspective. And then there is one more thing in titiksha, which is the base for ahimsa. A very controversial topic because people are misinterpreting ahimsa quite a lot, right? So titiksha also means that you are, see, the base principle of Vedanta is that everything, there is only single power which is omnipotent and omnipresent, a single source of power which encompasses everything. Says Ishavasya Midam Sarvam Etkinja Jagatyam Jagat. There is nothing, right, apart from this single source of power. And so there is no bifurcation that is being seen between him, that, or mine, right? We always say that protecting our dharma. When we say protecting our dharma, how do we protect our dharma? The first point of protecting our dharma is to learn dharma, what it is, what is said in the scriptures, right? What is the supreme power? So once we have that, we will be able to have a universal vision. That's why it is called as Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, right? We see the entire universe as one, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And what we are talking about is that supreme power, which is the base for everything, every God, every religion, every sentient and insentient thing in this universe. And if you talk about it, and it is, I think somebody had shared, I don't know whether, I don't remember whether it is you, Pradeep Bhai, that about the Vedic period and the timeline and everything, right? There was this one thing that you have shared. Yeah, correct.
Of
Yeah,
the power of -9 to 22.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you look at it, the time itself is just a small component of that power. And what we are talking about, why we don't want to have any kind of conflict or animosity in terms of when we define ahimsa, especially in this context, is because if you look at the entire universe, we know that it has got billions of galaxies, right? Hundreds of billions of galaxies. And if you just take our galaxy, the Milky Way, that itself has got hundreds of stars. And if you look at the Earth, it is a tiny spot, and then we are even tinier than that, right? If you look at, we are talking about that which is the power of entire universe, that are like billions of stars and galaxies. And that's what exactly the Veda says. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhati kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantamanubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. So that power by which this entire universe illuminates and is there, that power is the Brahman. And that is what we are talking about, right? That is what, you know if we have to say that we are going to protect it, we are too small to protect it. Only thing is that what we have to do is to learn and spread this knowledge. That is what it means. So titiksha in that sense also means that try to understand, live by this principle, and not to have animosity. But when I say this, so what to do if somebody is trying to harm? Defend, of course. And Shankaracharya defines this beautifully in Viveka Chudamani. He gives the definition of titiksha: sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam chinda vilapa rahitam sa titiksha nigadhyate. You will, the suffering that you have without pratikara, apratikara, right? If you are going into a battlefield, you are not going with the hatred but to defend your country, right? It's not because you have a goal that is to defend, right? Similarly, it is just that. It is not that I want to kill. No, because as per our tradition, we have all encompassing power is the source. That what is enlivening me is what is enlivening the other person as well. So if you are saying that, okay, I have a hatred towards him, then that becomes a problem, because that then you are going against that principle, but you are defending yourself. Have you heard about this Naga sannyasis?
Yeah. Uh, we have seen them in the Kumbh Mela.
Yeah, so the Naga sannyasis, how they came into being is, they were actually an army earlier. During Akbar's time, what happened is that there was a lot of invasion, and then a lot of people were getting killed. So to defend themselves, they formed a tribe called as these Naga sannyasis, which is who are warriors actually. So there was this great Vedantin called as Madhusudan Saraswati. So he actually formed this group. But what did they do? They defended, and once that defense was over, then they dropped their weapons and then they became sannyasins. So that's how it happened. So that is the principle of titiksha. So there were two more to cover, but I think we have already surpassed the time. So do you want to cover it in the next class, or are you okay proceeding, or you want to proceed with the questions?
I think let's proceed with the questions.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we will go for a huge long
Yeah,
time.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
I think
Even
Haribai,
this
if I
two
can
topic,
ask a
what you
question.
discussed today,
Sorry, Sandeep bhai. Yeah, Haribai, the question with regards to the ahimsa and hinsa you just now mentioned. So are you trying to say कि we should not do the hinsa just for the sake of killing, but to do the raksha, or something in that direction, or is there any topic which will cover this in more detail in future?
Yeah, ahimsa will be covered, but just to answer your question, see, why we should first of all understand why there is this concept of ahimsa or not hurting anyone, right? Because as per our Sanatana Dharma tradition, there is nothing else, nothing, absolutely nothing else in this entire universe apart from that single source of power. As we saw in the Brahman and Maya, right? That one source of power is what is being manifested as different forms, right? Like what we said in the case of this golden bangle and the golden chain and everything. So when we are uh, when we are going against someone with a hatred mentality to kill, so what we are trying to do is that we are trying to destroy that form of power, right? It cannot be destroyed, of course, but then we are seeing something called as dvaita or duality, whereas the entire base of our Sanatana Dharma is Advaita, which is there is only one power which is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, which is one. And that is the concept of one. And if we, of course, we can do, see, always remember this again, and I think we discussed this. There is always something called as a Paramarthika Satya and Vyavaharika Satya. A Paramarthika Satya is like, the sun is not rising or setting at all, because we all know that there is no sunset or sunrise if you look at from the sun's perspective, because sun is always there. But in our day-to-day life is always conditioned by the sunrise, sunset, and all the activities. Our clock is completely aligned to that, but in actual that is not happening. Similarly, this entire universe, right, is running on a single source of power, but because of this Maya, we are seeing different forms and names and everything. And then, of course, there is conflicts that are happening. So while we are interacting with people in the world, while we are doing whatever we should be doing in this world, we should always keep that in mind. And if we have to defend ourselves, that is, if somebody is trying to kill me, of course I should defend. And in that conflict, it might be possible that that the other person might die, might be possible, right? And that's what the Mahabharata and the stories tell us. If you look at after all these killings and even the Rama Ravana Yuddha and also the Mahabharata, the Pandavas do a proper cremation kriyas for them. And then what happens is that for Bhishma and all that, so every day Arjuna goes after the battle to where Bhishma is lying, because Bhishma was lying for almost 6 months there in the Sharashaya, right? And he gives his pranams to him, and then without, it's not about hatred. He had to do it to defend, but at the same time, he has got immense respect towards him, right? So this is what the story shows. Ahimsa is again a very much misunderstood concept. See, what we'll do is that our mind will always try to create this notion, okay, that person is in some other, the moment that we see someone, we have that notion, okay, is he from my religion or is he from my state? Is our association is how much he or she is closer to us. That's how we evaluate as soon as we see a person, right? We like, okay, where are you from? Okay, I am from this place. Okay, so if we see somebody from some other country or somebody from some other who's not very much aligned to our interests, then we might see, okay, we might automatically, our mind will have a distance to that person, right? So our mind will always try to create these boundaries, mine and others, mine and others, mine and others. It is mine. No, that is some other. So that is what will create the conflict, and that is what becomes the base of himsa. And it's not just me or you, it is universal across, right? Any religion, any caste, anything for that matter, we have something called as our selfishness, and something that is within our circle and something that is outside of our circle. So anything within our circle is dear to me, anything that is outside of my circle, I might have a neutral outlook or a completely defensive outlook towards them, right? So that is what the basis of ahimsa is. What Sanatana Dharma tells us is that look at everything as one form, or the manifestation of that one supreme power or God, and do your duties in this world. Whether if you are a soldier, don't sit and say that okay, this is all manifestation of God, I cannot kill. No, that's not what it is. Your dharma you should do with dedication, but in your mind, titiksha, in your mind, you will not take it. Your hatred will not come to your mind. Anger will not come to your mind. You will deploy only when that is to be deployed. You will not rot yourself inside with those notions, because end of it, if you have that in your mind, you are rotting inside. Your mind is getting turbulent, right?
Yeah,
You will be building up the notions inside. That's what it is.
yeah. Thank you. That was helpful.
So, Haribhai, I mean, just following on the way where we are trying to.
You are breaking up.
Can
uh, yeah,
you,
go on. No.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was just saying, Haribhai, just following on this one. So there are two things, right? One, I understood about controlling your indriyas and the mind, right? And then on the contrary, in Titiksha, we are talking about uh, not having your emotions inside, but actually taking them out, right? Or actually kind of not keeping it inside. So it when do you make the decision, or while we are, or human nature, in the example you gave where we saw Vivekananda crying, right? In that example, uh, while it is good to take out the emotions, but then is he not really control of his indriyas, right? So he hasn't reached that higher state of self control, if you like, or therefore closer to the Parabrahm.
No, so see, that's the thing. So, and we are going to again see this. So, the mind actually, even in jnanis or yogis, right? What is mind? Mind is this thoughts that are coming. That something, if you are reacting to something outside from outside, as an example, in this case, his brother Swami attained samadhi, right? You lost someone there. If you are saying that, okay, you should not be sad about it, right? It doesn't mean that he is actually not having control. He has not reached Parabrahma. That's not what it means, because Parabrahma, reaching that is okay. Let me actually try to answer this through a story. I think that way you will understand better. So in Ramayana there is a story wherein Rama, after he lost Sita to Ravana, right? Ravana had abducted Sita. Then Rama is like, remember, Rama is a Jivan Mukta, and he has been taught Yoga Vasishta by Vasishta, and he already knows what is Parabrahm. He himself is the avatar, right? But then he is like crying like anything, and then he's like, "Oh my Sita, where are you?" And I can't live without you. He's like crying too much actually. And then, in fact, there is a place where Sugriva comes and consoles, saying that, see, you should not be crying like this. Even I have lost my wife, and I'm like sitting here with not much of emotions and all that. So, there are some instances like that as well. So, hearing Rama cry like this and wailing like this, um, Parvati, who's Shiva's consort, asked Shiva, Mahadeva. He is supposed to be an avatar of Vishnu. He is the Parabrahma Swarupa himself. Why is he crying? So, why is Rama crying? So then Mahadev says that, why don't you go and find out yourself? Right? So then what Parvati Mata does is she goes and uh, stands in front of Rama, in the form of Sita. Right? So she disguises herself as Sita, goes and stands in front of Rama. And Rama, as soon as he sees Sita there, or Parvati Mata in the form of Sita, he just like that just turns around, right? That person who was crying there is not there, and he prostrates and then says that, "Oh, dear beloved mother, Parvati Mata, you have decided to give me darshan in the form of Sita today, right? And I am so happy, I am so glad. While I am playing my part in this play of crying and all that, you have come here to console me in the form of Sita, right? And your blessings, or is very much is what I need at this point of time, of course, to complete this play. So bless me, right? So that is the outlook of a jnani. He might be crying, but inside he is called as Sthita Prajna, meaning he is not inside. He is the same self. He knows that this is a play. He is in the Vyavaharika Satya, but at any point of time he is seated in that Paramarthika level. That's how it is. So it's the same case with Swami Vivekananda as well. So that's why it is said you should not take it inside. What does it mean by don't take it inside? You will still have, because if you look at something that has been inflicted from outside, you have a mind, you have ears, you have senses, your mind will feel that, but you will be a spectator of your mind crying. You will be a spectator of yourself, right? If you reach that state, crying, or having sorrow or having happiness, whatever it is, you will be a spectator and see that, like in this case what Rama did.
So
Yeah, that's
in
helpful.
that scenario, connecting to that, does this mean कि हम जो जी रहे हैं, जो मोमेंट को जी रहे हैं, हमारी ज्ञानेंद्रिय उसकी एक मेमोरी बनाती है, और वो मेमोरी हमारा सोच बन के हमें मतलब क्या एक्सप्रेस करूं, उसे ही सत्य मान के नेक्स्ट टाइम जब ऐसा कुछ होता है उसको रिलीवेंट बनाती है, और उसकी वजह से ज्यादा दुख में हम रहते हैं. तो इज दैट द थिंग कि आप जो जी रहे हो उसी मोमेंट को मेमोरीज तक पहुंचाओ नहीं, या मतलब मैं आई एम नॉट एबल टू एक्सप्लेन यू वेल बाय आस्किंग दिस थिंग कि जैसे स्वामी विवेकानंद का आपने एग्जाम्पल दिया या रामा का दिया, वो उस मोमेंट को जी रहे थे, लेकिन इवन वो साधु था, वो मोमेंट को जी रहा है, लेकिन उनके लिए सत्य यही है कि उनकी जो मेमोरीज हैं, उनके अंदर जो ज्ञानेंद्रियों ने मेमोरी क्रिएट की है, वो एक ही मेमोरी है. मतलब वो हर चीज की अलग मेमोरीज क्रिएट नहीं कर रहे हैं. सुख का भी एक मेमोरी है और दुख का सिमिलरली एक मेमोरी है, और दैट्स व्हाई दे आर नॉट affected by any emotions. Is that what it is?
Not actually, because it's not just about the memory, it's about what is powering that memory, in the sense that of course we all when you talk about the memory, so let's say the same example that you give, right? When you say memory, what you're trying to say here is that, okay, that this is how they will react to a particular thing, that is, they have a memory, and this is how they should react. See, mind, and this is something that we touched upon the last class, Sandeep. So if you are associating yourself with something, that is how the thoughts are created. In deep sleep, are you there or are you not there? You are there, right? You are not able to experience anything in deep sleep because you are not associating. There is no experience created there. The experiencer is still there, because otherwise you will not wake up next day morning and will have the continuity and will say that, okay, I slept very well. Correct? So in this case, the memory is actually not the mind is getting awakened in the sadhu also, in the jnani also, but he is looking at it detached. So it's like a play. So in Yoga Vasishta, Vasishta says the same thing, that you should play like this entire world is a stage. This is what Shakespeare also says, right? The entire world is a stage and all are players in it, right? So to answer your question in detail, we will see the bifurcation of Sukshma Sharira and Karana Sharira. And then at that point of time, and then remember this question, Sandeep Bhai. So at that point of time, we will exactly see where Vivekananda and Rama was standing. Once I explain that Sukshma and Karana Sharira, then we will come back to this question. So that you will have better
Got
clarity.
it. Okay. Sure.
Hari bhai, I got one question.
Yeah,
You
please.
mentioned that the entire universe is basically the it's a creation or creation of the Brahman. So we cannot change it, but we have to understand it, and that. So do we mean that by understanding the universe, or let's say science in general, we are really doing kind of a puja to the Brahman just by understanding it?
Yes, very good question. Actually, that's true. That's true. Because, there are two ways of doing it. One is that you are trying, what is science trying to do? Science is actually trying to see the cause behind each and everything, right? So, what is the cause behind this? What is the cause behind this? So, in a way, science, the only difference between science and Vedanta is that science is trying to see from an outside perspective. That is, it is trying to reach uh, to understand the cause behind the existence of universe through going behind each of these and trying to see it in a particle base by trying to break it down bits. Vedanta is also doing the same thing by asking the same questions, like what is the cause behind this, keneshidam padadi preshidam mana and all that. But while what science is trying to do is trying to see what is the cause behind everything outside, the starting point in Vedanta is ourselves, right? We are trying to first understand ourselves and then trying to understand the world. Whereas in science, it's the other way around. In science, what you're trying to understand is the world and universe first, and then might be trying to understand us. So if you look at, that's what, if you look at the science, it dissects our body. It is now trying to and trying to find our mind. Then it is still asking the question, so what is life, where is it in the body, right? So we don't know, I mean the science doesn't know at this point of time. It might reach at some point of time. So it is two different paths. But then the science, if you have to really look at it, there is one small issue there, because as I told you earlier, there are hundreds of billions of galaxies there. If we, as a small human being sitting in this one small planet, if we have to understand the entire cosmos through that method, right, it is definitely good, because that's how you will go step by step by step. But how much time it will take, we don't know. But yes, of course, science is something similar to Vedanta, because both are inquiring, inquisitive, rather than, and this is something that I say in my interactions with the other people as well. So a scientist or whoever is questioning, saying that science is good and God, that as you say, in terms of the belief in God is bad, or a nastika, right? That is still a much more relevant way than believing in something blindfolded. Remember, Vedanta or our science or Sanatana Dharma is one such religion in world, or I would say that it is only one religion, um, which asks you to inquire. And that was actually the next point that we are going to study, the Shraddha. When we look at that in the next class, we will see about it. Enquiry is the way of both science and Vedanta. That way it is similar. Only thing is that science is going in the outside world, outward, whereas Vedanta is trying to go inward, and both are trying to find the answers for the same question.
Hariba, I have a
One,
question. Sachin asked. So the universe. I had shared a small video about a scientist, right? I just build on that question and relate. So this physics scientist, right? He's quite old now, but he's been doing research in quantum physics for like 60 years now, and he went through all the papers and the atom, why is it stable, and why we need an electron which makes it unstable, and then you've got reactions or something comes out of it, right? So after all his study and research, he said that uh, on matter, he says that first they were researching matter, all type of matter and the atoms and the electrons, then finally concludes that there is non-matter, right? There's matter and non-matter, and then he says that actually there's no matter, so everything is nothing basically, or the fact that where we are talking about everything is transitioning, but actually there's no final state of anything, right? So even if or even if a non-living thing at some point it will finishes or transform into something else, and therefore he tries to define at that stage, all his 60 years of study goes out of the window, and he says actually there's no matter, and then he tries to define consciousness through uh, through this principle of everything is transformation. There is nothing as final state, there's no matter actually, and explaining it outside the dimension of space and time. It's getting a bit complicated here, but he says without even considering space and time dimensions, and it's a transcendent experience, as you were talking about the experience. That is what consciousness is. So basically, looking at, if I'm looking at this pillow in front of me, actually this pillow is not there, but it's actually in a way, right? And that's an experience only you can see. So for example, even if I'm going through journey, I'm suffering and I'm crying, actually I'm not crying. Just like Lord Rama in that instance knew that he's only performing, but actually he's Parabrahm himself, right? So he's only perform. So some kind of similar kind of a theory he was explaining, and I could kind of relate to what we have been learning so far. So I'll share that in this group. It's
Yeah,
difficult to. I mean, yeah.
That's what we were saying in the beginning when we talked about what is finite on and what is constant, what is eternal and what is non-eternal. So we said that anything that is inside time and space will change, right? And it's non-eternal. Um, so this concept actually, this is what Maya is. What when I saw that video that you sent, right? It is nothing. He is talking about the Maya concept in here. So and in Vedanta, it is very much explained in detail as well. So if you look at in our dreams, actually, right? If you go to the dream, so let's say this night, let's say you are dreaming about this class, right? So you are sitting there, I am speaking, and then all of us are there in the call, everyone is asking questions. So what is happening there? So if you actually look at, there is no me, there is no you also sitting in the class, there is no one else. From where it is created? It is all created from you, actually speaking. And if let's say I'm speaking to 100 people in my dream, that person who is speaking and the audience, that hall, or anything that I see in that dream. In fact, if you look at, you might, if you think about the dreams, I don't know, we might have seen dreams like big cities, people, flights, trains, all that in the dream, actually like the way that we are seeing in the real world, right? We might have seen something that we have not directly experienced, imaginative, that some great cities, some unexplainable things there. From where it is created? It is all from our mind only, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, right, the creation or manifestation is actually happening in our mind. So that's a bit advanced level, but we will eventually reach there. You are right. So that's a very interesting concept when we learn the step by step, but this is the Maya continuation. So actually that's dream state. Actually, if you just try to superimpose into the into this state of Jagrat or the waking state. And that is why, there is this saying by Buddha, right? What is the difference between us and you? Somebody asked Buddha. So Buddha said that, it's just that I have woken from my sleep and you are still sleeping, right? So that's what it is. So there is this interesting concept, but then before we reach into that state, we need to understand what Parabrahma Surupa is. And then otherwise, if I tell you now that, see, you are all inside something like a metaverse, right? You are not actually here, you are sitting somewhere else, and when you are listening, you will be like, okay, so this guy is not talking sense, right? So something is wrong. No, you're not audible.
Mode after that, because
We,
I was
we can't hear you.
we are here sitting here having coffee, but we are not actually. And they were like, but I
Correct.
think we were just discussing. They got the point, but we went into laughter mode, saying, this is like somebody will call you mad.
Correct,
Like,
exactly. So at this point of time, but then we will see in detail on with logical and scientific explanation, and that's what we are going to do in the subsequent
Hari
class.
bhai, one
Hari,
more.
Hari bhai, another quick question.
Hmm.
Sometimes when we have a say some kind of discussion or debate with non-Hindu, for example, say Muslim. So, is it okay to say that the what we call as a Brahman is the same as Allah for them? Is it the same name, same concept, just different name?
Okay, that's a good question. So see, if you look at it, uh, any religions for that matter, right? So all of the religions in its essence have tried to understand this only, this concept of who am I, and what is God, what is universe, right? Uh, but some religions, what has happened is that they have ultimately just got transformed into rule books, or in our dharma also it is there, that people are trying to just give us a set of rule books and then say that you should just follow this without questioning. So that was not the construct of any religion as such, be it Islam, be it Christianity. I'm just talking about the major religions, that and any religion for that matter. They are also talking about the same thing, in the sense, as I told you, there is only one single source of power. If you look at in our language, we say that aham brahmasmi or brahmaivaham, right? If you really look at the text, the Quran, and the pure form of Islamism, which is like the Sufism, they say something called as anal haq, right? Which is similar in the sense that and in Bible, in Christianity, they say that I am that I am, right? And none of these, if you look at the real sannyasins of our Sanatana Dharma tradition, or the Sufis, or the Christian saints, or Jainism, or any religion for that matter, they don't go for these debates, because they understand that whatever is said is the same. But the issue is here, right? People who are coming for the debate, be it from our religion, other religion, and I have observed this quite a lot, right? They want to debate and win over. That's the only matter there. It's not that they have read their scriptures. They have not. Correct. So if you are trying to tell a Muslim who is coming to debate with you, he or she might not be coming with a mindset of understanding the truth. Similarly, the case with Hindus as well, right? If you are going and trying to, it's defending, like I just told you before in the case of Titiksha, mine and them, their religion, my religion, right? If you go for that matter with anything, be it Muslim, Christian, Islam, I mean Hindus, or anyone, right? If the debate is just to win over, it can't be won over, because it is not logical, it is beyond logical. That's what Shankaracharya says, Shabda Jalam Maharanyam Chitta Brahmana Karanam. Though that kind of debates causes Chitta Brahma. Chitta Brahma means unstable mind. Chitta Brahmana Karanam. it will just turn you round and round and round and round without the conclusion, and you will end up hating each other. To answer your question, yes, the principle is the same, because we all see, if there is only one living principle, one power, it is the same power that is there enlivening the entire universe. Whether you call it as this or that, is the same. And if you are saying that I have got one omnipotent omniscient power, he has got another, then it is not omnipotent omniscient. You have already created a divide there.
So basically, in principle, not for debate, for my own
In principle, yes, it is all
that
the same.
Allah and Parabrahma are one and the same thing.
Absolutely.
That's for my own understanding.
Absolutely. It's you can call it as Allah, Parabrahma, 100 different names. If you want to create a new name for that, you are welcome to create a new name for that as per a Sanatana Dharma tradition. That's why we are having this 33,000 crore gods in our tradition. Whichever way that we want to call, we can call. But it is all one single source of power that is being manifested, again, not manifested. We all understand according to our capacity.
Okay.
So to get a better understanding, according to our vasanas, our samskaras, we are creating the gods, in the sense that the gods are being manifested as per our capacity. So
Okay,
it is
thank
all the same. There is only one single source of power.
Okay.
Don't think that there is one
Arey bhai,
Krishna and Vishnu and Shiva are not different, right? And Vishnu and Brahma are not different, or Shiva and Allah are not different. It's all the same. It's only one single source of power manifested in different forms.
Arey bhai,
Yeah.
Thank you.
going back to that memory, Gnanendriya, and all that, there are very close 2, 3 friends of mine. I always talk to them. So, in connection of that, I want to ask you one question. You can describe me, explain me. Basically, they create more, or they hold more bad memories than good memories in their mind, and they hold for years. Now, whenever I speak to them in any contest, and if it's kind of relevant to that, मतलब वो एक memories जो उनके दिल में है या जो भी है, अगर उसके नजदीक में वो टॉपिक की ऊपर बात आती है, तो वो they just go to that memory, और वो उसी पे बात करके दुख अपने आप को पहुंचाना चालू करते हैं. और मैं जब उनसे बात करता हूँ कि भाई आप एक ही बात फिर से उसके ऊपर क्यों जा रहे हो, आप छोड़ दो उस बात को एंड मूव ऑन टू समथिंग न्यू. बट उनको लगता है कि नहीं, अभी भी वो मेमोरी मेरे दिल में है, वो ओवर नहीं हुआ है शायद. लेकिन मुझे जब एक्सप्लेन करते हैं, बिकॉज आई एम द पर्सन हु इज लाइक रिपीटेटिवली टॉकिंग दैट अगेन विद देम टाइम टू टाइम, तो वो मुझे शायद ऐसे बात करते हैं कि नहीं, मैं सिर्फ आपको शेयर कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन वो मेरे दिल में अभी ऐसे नहीं है. बट जब वो बात करते हैं, they go down, they go like sad, they go sometime even aggressive, frustrative and aggressive, and they think कि वो memories हैं या वो moments हैं जिसकी वजह से उनको काफी तकलीफ हुई थी. तो उसको कैसे समझाया जाए कि वो memories को सिर्फ एक न्यूट्रल मेमोरी बना दे, या इवन हैप्पीनेस या लर्निंग की मेमोरी बना दे, कैसे उनको समझाया जाए?
So see, there was a similar incident. I'll tell you my incident, and then we can both relate to that. So there was one person in my distant family.
And similar, let me add you one more before you explain. Similar thing, यही चीज हमारे साथ हो सकती है, जैसे शायद हमने कोई बहुत अपनी नजदीक की व्यक्ति को खो दिया है और हम उसको मिस करेंगे, तो हर बार हमें वही सैडनेस फील होगी, हालांकि हम उनके साथ बिताए हुए कोई भी अच्छे टाइम को याद करने से जगह पे हम उसको मिस करने में ज्यादा सैड होंगे. You can carry on.
Yeah. So see, the point here is that we are our memories. We talked about the samskaras and vasanas, right? There are people who are, as I told you, I was just about to tell you an example of someone who's like in my very distant relation. So there was this brother and sister, and then the brother, they had their common whatever property and all that, and then the brother somehow snatched that from the sister, and they were like, very much together and all that, and in very much mutual understanding and love and everything. And then when that happened, the sister could not bear it, and for like 20-25 years, whenever I was going to see them, there was only one thing that she had to say, and not just with me, with everyone who was there, who's going to see her. He just snatched everything from me. So it's like, it's more like the not the just the property, the feeling of that cheating that happened there, right? From a beloved one, that what triggered that particular emotion in her. If this would have happened from someone else, she would not have, like, felt so much, right? So there is this something that is near, and in this case also, I feel, I don't know what that experience that you're talking about, but then I think when you are holding something very near to you, right, very close to you, and that cause or that particular phenomena is what has caused you that pain, that suffering, that is when this becomes very sensitive, and that is when it becomes strongly embedded in the memory, right? As a bad memory, or good memories definitely is there, but then more than good, a painful memory comes when you are getting hit by something that is very close to you, right? So in this case, in my example that I told, what happened there was that if this would have happened from some other distant relative of hers, she would have moved on, actually. But in this case, she was not able to, because it is her own brother who was like, they were very much in sync, and there was no conflict at all. Suddenly it happened, and then he snatched everything, right? So she was, and she died, and she was not able to forget that in her deathbed, and till the time she was in coma, and she was not able to, right? So there will of course be something behind that, as you just mentioned, like, a near and dear one whom we have lost, their memories. Of course it will be there, it will be going strong in your memory. But then the ideal way is that, we need to actually bifurcate that, and it's I'm not talking about Vedanta here. In Vedanta way, the way that it is mentioned in our scriptures is about the mind controllers to have this detached view, a person view, right? And in this case, we need to separate this, that it has been snatched from me and my brother did it, correct? So if you are able to create that divide, break that problem into two parts, I think that will help, right? In this case also, the memories of people who were with us and who has gone by, that will come back to us, right? If they were very much dear to us. But remember, time is the biggest healer, right? We, even though we say that, okay, we have our memories and we were very much sad, nobody's crying even if they have lost their near and dear ones throughout the life. Of course the memories will come, they will haunt, and it will get triggered with something. And as you rightly said, if there is something to trigger that, of course it will come back, it will rush back. But then that's where this shama that we talked about will come into picture. Have a detached view and try to look at it analytically. That's the only way, that we can break that problem, because memory is what will always be there. And if it's hitting us hard, we need to break that into the smallest bits possible and see that. And again, that's the mano or mana antakarana part of Vedanta that is explaining that phenomenon.
Because that will hold people down. Like whenever they remember, they will go down, right? Rather than so मतलब
No, I think
मेरे
there will be
मेरे कहने
something
का
else.
है कि वो उस बंदे को जो होल्ड करके बैठा है उसी को हार्म कर रहा है, हालांकि सामने वाला तो मूव ऑन हो चुका होता है.
Exactly. So maybe, like, in your case also, it might be the case that, okay, that person did that to me. The love that I had towards that person was so great. And then, I believed and I got cheated. And how can I move on? Correct. But then the other person might have moved on, right? So it means that, that person is not valuing you that much, like you are valuing him. But that reality, they are not able to grasp it till the end of it. But then that's a painful memory. But if you are hurting yourself inside, na, that is what is happening.
So that will in Kshama we will
We
explore
need
more,
to look
right?
at it more from an analytical point of view. Emotional point of view, of course, will be there. But then if the other person has moved on, then what's the point actually? So which means that the way that you were looking at that person, the way that you are valuing it, the other person is not valuing it. And in this case, in my example, the brother, he didn't even come for that sister's funeral, is what I heard, right? So you look at that. So the actually what happened there? She was not crying for the property. She was crying for that brother's love and affection that he had towards her, or she had towards him, and the way she got cheated. And whereas the other guy didn't even come for the funeral. So that's the hard reality, right? If you see, once you start associating yourself with all these things and say that, okay, my love, my affection, my soul is in that, or with that person, then you are bound to get hurt. Absolutely. Because if you associate yourself too much with anything in the world outside, and that is what is called as dukkha karana, you will get hurt, because those are all transient. It will change. It is not in your hands. And that's why, from a Vedanta perspective, it has always been said, look inside you, try to understand who you are, rather than trying to associate with this, that, and say that, okay, I am closely associated with that, and that is what is going to give me pleasure and happiness. If that there was one thing like that, then there was no need of any of this Vedanta or introspection or anything, because none in this world, till it has come into existence, has got eternal happiness from anything, any single thing, right? We are moving on and on and on and on, experiencing, trying to experience, try to derive pleasures, and we are trying to associate, saying that, okay, it will give us good eternal pleasure, it will not give us pain, be it emotion, be it something, be it object, whatever it is. That's where we need to understand pleasure and pain is something that the outside object will give, if we are going to associate ourselves with it. We need to have a separate stance. We can enjoy it, but with that mindset that, okay, this is my object of pleasure or my object of pain. It is not me. If it is moving on, something else will come. That's the way to look at it.
Thank you.
And good that Sandeep you brought this point. So because titiksha in Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned exactly like this: Agama paino nitya sa titikshasva bharata. That which is coming and going, if you understand that, right, everything is coming and going. This concept of sugha, dukkha, and shita, ushna, all will go away, because anyways, if it has come, it will go. Agama paino anitya. It is anitya.
And I think that is the great example in Mahabharata, where I think Gandhari has always understood the fact and never differentiate his children or Pandavas. And even in the war, while she was pained by getting killed of all the children's, she was equally get pain when she was hearing about Abhimanyu or any other children's getting died. So she was in that balance, and rather than holding that kind of imbalance between the life or pain or anything else, where Dusashan, not Dusashan, his husband, I forgot the name. So he was holding the grief where he didn't get the Rajya because of he was blind and all that at first place, and he was holding that for life, and he was not equally able to manage between the this kind of feelings, right?
Yeah, that's true. Dhritarashtra, yes, yeah. So he was not, but Gandhari, that characterization itself is like, if you look at Dhritarashtra, if Dhritarashtra can have any good qualities as such, right? That is being personified as his partner in Mahabharata, as Gandhari. So it's a bit of a contrast there. But then she had to be with Dhritarashtra because he's his wife. She's his wife. So that's how it is being characterized. Very beautiful characterization of Gandhari in that, and that's why she puts that that lays on her eyes and then closes it, and then she has got, if you look at the characterization of Gandhari, she has got all the good qualities. The way that you look at it, like you just mentioned, without any Beda Bhav, but she is being associated with her husband, and then she has to be in this mood, and that's how that characterization of almost all the righteous people in the Kaurava part of it, like Bhishma, Drona, all those people, though they know what the right thing is, they got associated with these Kauravas, and then they had to be in that state. Yeah.
And that's why I think they, all of them, even getting like killed by Pandavas, they never cursed them back.
Yeah.
They never, like, even Gandhari never cursed back, because she knew that what was right and wrong. So I think in our journey we have to identify and disassociate with our emotions, and we have to understand that what is right as overall, and then we have to take it from there. And I think that will not give more pain, rather than that will give the balance of life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Today's session is great. Even from my experience, I think some of the stuff, even two words you explain, dharma mama, Gita explained, first time I heard that in my life, in two words, like entire Gita explanation in two words, and that is like great learning.
Yeah, that's the entire Gita is about that. Yes. So, and it gives us the step by step, in terms of going from karma yoga to bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, and how to reach the higher state. Yeah. So that's what the Gita is all about. Actually, the elaboration of that Gita, Bhagavad Gita, is through stories is Mahabharata. So entire thing. I mean, the entire scripture is all about dharma. And dharma, as we understand, is nothing but Brahma, Parabrahma. So that's what it is, right? So yeah,
Thank you.
great. Thank you. Any other questions?
It seems everyone is on silent right now.
Okay, so I think yeah, that's it. So then let's conclude then today's session. So just one thing. So I'm going to India, and then I'm going on third actually, so which is supposed to be our next class, and then I'm coming back on 24th of April. That is again the Sunday. Okay, okay. So
So,
Sundays are.
whatever you are comfortable, we can do it that weekend, So no, not exactly like hard rigid की fortnight ही करना है. तो मैं तो 1 week आगे या 1 week जो भी करना है we can do. No worries.
हाँ, तो I think the next one would be then on 1st of May actually.
Okay.
But I think if I would suggest that if you can, anyways, to keep this going, if you can uh, just log in and then try to discuss among yourselves about all these points that we have learned till now. I think that would be better, just to keep the continuity.
Okay. So in fortnight we'll just as a group we'll catch up, log in, and then we'll discuss some of and some our thoughts as well. So we keep it live.
Right. So I think yeah. Then I will then meet you on 1st of May then.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right.
And
So
Haribhai, the PPT you are recently talking and sharing. Can you share that PPT on our group as well? Because we have, I think, the previous one, not with the detail, like four part of mana and then avastha and all that. What you have
So
discussed.
that's uploaded in that Google Drive that Pradeep Bhai had created.
I
So
tried to check that, but I couldn't find it. But I'll have a look again.
you are saying in the WhatsApp group.
No, even Google Drive, I tried to find it, but I couldn't find that.
So no issue. So what I'll do is that I will also share that in the WhatsApp group so that you can just check from there as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
So
so much.
thank you. So let's conclude then. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay, then see you all.
Right.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you,
care,
everyone.
and
Great
if I
session.
don't see you, speak to you, have a safe journey.
All right. Thank you so much.
Have a safe journey.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.